What's up guys, Fett here again, and we're gonna talk about my newest build, the White Wolf. So as you can see, it's actually right over here, and it's been an interesting journey. This here has been a project that I have probably spent almost 2 months on buying all the parts, learning all the stuff, tube bending especially. This here is one of the tubes that didn't go so well, and many other things. So yeah, I can only say that it's been a pleasure of doing it. It's not the first time that I'm buying or building something, but it's the first time me doing hardline tubing. And hardline tubing is definitely different from soft tubing. A lot different. There's a lot more planning involved. There's a lot more things that can go wrong. You need to actually know or take into account to if you want to take out parts, like for instance your graphics cards, for instance your disk, your hard drives and all that. You need to take into account that some of the tubes are not going to block, so you can't get them out. A huge undertaking actually planning that. Also getting the right case for the build that you want to do. I want a flexible case. I want a case where I could go in. So let's get into it. The whole case is pretty much Case Lab SM8. The Case Lab SM8 is or any Case Lab case is an extreme, expensive, high quality case. For European people, it's pretty much the most expensive case you would buy ever, other than building it yourself. There is not many places you can get it. Case Labs is a Californian manufacturer. They only have one shop, and it's over there. Everything is milled out there, and the problem is that it's not that the case is so expensive. It's like $500 or $600. The problem is the case itself weighs a ton, and the shipping is expensive. I think the case shipping is almost $200 to $300, and that does not include the import tax. So I've been looking at Case Labs for a long time, and the thing is that the first manufacturer, or first distributor over here, actually, at the time that I asked for a case, I was actually going with this here. This here is the Merlin edition. I was actually going with the Magnum, which is a larger case and the same case that Jace 2 Cent uses. But the problem is that it's, first of all, it was more expensive. Second, it's a lot larger than I actually wanted. I thought that I wanted all that radiator space, but actually I was just like, oh well, and then many other things that I didn't want to do with this here build. So I went ahead and, first off, let's go back to that. I talked to them about it, and they were not allowed to distribute anymore, so they weren't distributors anymore, and I was waiting for a European distributor to get here. At some time I found out they finally did one. Best Cases, they are called now. It's in Romania. They do an okay job. There are some problems with my case. One of them was, what they do down there is actually they don't build them. So it's still American build. The problem is they get all the parts, really cheap, shipped over. They put them together. You pay a little bit extra. I think it's like 30 euros for actually they assembling, and that's a requirement. And then they ship it to you for 50 or 60 bucks. It's really cheap shipping. So all in all, it's not going to cost you a fortune. But the problem is, if something's wrong with the case, they have to do that. And there was two things wrong. First off, the front radiator mount that I ordered specially for the case, it's addition. So you pretty much do all the things, like you go ahead and here's the base case. This is how it's going to look, and then you could add in and change stuff. So I added in a front radiator, and I added a top radiator mount. The front radiator mount wasn't there. They forgot to put it in. They had it, so they shipped it fast to me, and I got that. and I thought the top radiator mount, the drop-in mount that I ordered wasn't there, but it's actually pre-installed, but I couldn't see it. So that's great. The next thing after fiddling around with the case and figuring out all the stuff, I actually wanted to. There were two holes that were covered up with plastic grommets, and I wanted to open up and and put in the grommets that I got separately to actually exchange them. They didn't fit. That packaging was actually, or these grommets were from a different case. The problem was that was actually not Romania's fault. The fault lied in the US, because they package everything saying that, okay, this is what you buy, this is here, and then they package everything called this here customer number 555 some blah blah blah, and then ship it over, and they take that everything they get from it from the US, assemble it and ship it to the customer in Europe. So the error of the wrong grommets came over from the US. Great thing is that I contacted Romania, the distributor said, okay, this here is an error on their part, you need to contact them. They told me just go ahead and ask them. A day after, because of the time difference, I got an email back saying, yeah, that's the wrong grommets, because I took a picture of them. The grommets were too small to the hole, and I thought like, shit, they milled the wrong hole size in. Wasn't that? It was actually the wrong grommet. So that's the story behind the case. The next thing after I got the case was actually I started drilling in it. I started figuring out how I want to put my reservoir. I had to empty the Dude to get it into the Whitewolf because I wanted to reuse some of my water cooling parts, and the experience that I had with water cooling the Dude, and after that I went over to air cooling, which didn't really improve much on the Dude. There were still some problems. I couldn't overclock or anything, so it wasn't never the water cooling. But I emptied it out, and everything that I planned ahead with that build went really great. It was easier to empty the water cooling on. There were some mistakes on my part, but I figured that out and actually learned a lot of stuff from that. And through that, I improved the Whitewolf build to make it easier to drain and also bleed. But so I started with that, and I could see that I had to drill in the two holes on actually getting in the reservoir, and the reservoir was mounted, and you've probably seen some picture of that. And then I tried to figure out where to put the pump. The problem was that I couldn't actually figure it out where I wanted it. So what happened is that I did a floating style pump, but I wanted to take off the the legs of it, and I broke one of the legs, so I had to order some new legs. I did that with some parts. You can get a kit for it. But also what I found out, I cracked the block on it, the top block on it. It's acrylic, and I looked like I tightened it too much, so I actually did some cracks in there. I was afraid that the cracks were so deep that it would leak. So I bought a new acrylic clear mount or clear top and put that in. I found out how to disassemble it and all that. It's actually pretty easy. The only thing you need are really a lot of tools. You need some torque tools, and you need the specific size. And I luckily had a full torque set because of my former colleague got me into fiddling around with some stuff on cars and stuff like that and all that. He said, you need to go up and buy these tools here so you always have them. And I'm happy I did. I gotta thank him for that if I see him again. But yeah, after that, assembling the pump, and then the next thing was, when I was actually figuring out what type of hardline tubing would I want. So I actually wanted the same size, because Jay's 2 cents said that he uses 10-13, and when he talks about 10, that's the inside diameter, and 13 on the outside. But that's Primo Chill fittings that are used for that, and the tubing I also used was Primo Chill. But the hardline tubes are specifically let's see if I can figure this out. The 10-13 millimeter diameter tubes are pretty much impossible to get over here. And Primo Chill again is an American distributor and manufacturer, so it's not possible for me to actually get these kind of fittings and also tubes without paying a leg and an arm and a lot of shipping. So I went ahead and went to EK again, which makes also tubes and all that, but they don't do 1013, they do 1012, which was the tube size that I used for the soft tubing. But I want to go a little bit bigger for aesthetics and to fill out the case, because the case is really, really big. The problem with that is it's too small. The tubes are really small. So I thought to myself, okay, what's the next step up? That's 10, 6, or 12, 16. So these here are 12, 16 outer diameter, 12 inside diameter, millimeter tubes. So they are really, really thick. And I'm probably guessing, at least from my experience, they're a little bit harder to bend if they were soft or smaller tubes, because you gotta heat up all that more plastic or PGG tubing, which this here is not acrylic. So it is actually flexible. It's not gonna crack on you. So I ordered like 6 meters of that tube size. You get 2 pieces of a half meter, so that's a meter in total per kit or per order. So I ordered 6 of them, and a kit and a bending kit, yeah, started bending and also got the fittings that I needed, which were really expensive, but that's another thing. And I needed some adapters and all that, and I figured that out. So. And this is the result. This here is for one bend, and I actually posted that. One bend, I used all my 6 meters. But I learned a lot. I tried to reuse some of it when I got the later parts, because at that time I only had the radiator mount in the front, and the acrylic tubing and the pump. And I was trying to do the loop back into the pump, which was if you're looking at a picture right now, you will see that I go out, down, and into the pump or into the reservoir at the bottom, not at the top. And that's one of the reasons why I did that, because if I go into the top, I will cause water or the liquid to drop down, which is going to cause a lot of more turbulence inside the reservoir, which is going to cause more air to go around and more air to come inside the loop, or the chance of it, and that means it's going to be harder to bleed and all that. And I didn't want to have that look. Also, it's good, but it would have looked better that a tube would not have blocked so much of the view of the radiator or the reservoir. But that's a small price to pay for it, pretty much to bleed out in a half hour. So a lot easier to bleed than the other one, because even though after I bled the dude there was still air inside, so I couldn't get it out. So yeah, the other thing I started doing is picking parts. So I wanted to go with an all black motherboard, but the problem is there's no all black motherboard. I actually wanted a white motherboard, couldn't find that, at least not one I wanted. And I thought to myself, okay, let's go black and blue, and that was actually the Gigabyte, the Zignera X99 board. But the problem with that is pretty much $200 more expensive than the ones that I want to look at. So yeah, that was interesting. And the problem was also it didn't have really all the things that I wanted. So again, finding the parts and all that. So I went back to UGA, which this is a UGA for the Win X99K board, and it had the things that I wanted, but I didn't like the red. But the problem is the red is so minuscule on it. It's not that standing out. I actually think it looks really nice in this build here, even though it's black, red, and white, which is pretty much the Witcher in itself. You have the black, you have the Whitewolf, and you have the red eyes on the medallion when it lights up. So I thought that would actually do a good combo, and that's one of the wide reasons that I named it the White Wolf. Even though I didn't want the red, and I didn't want to mod the motherboard. The pump is modded. I sleeved them myself. That was also a really interesting experience. And buying tools to sleeve it didn't go too well, but I'm proud of myself. Go to Instagram if you want to see the pictures of it. And yeah, that also went really well. I bought a new power supply, also UJ 1300 watt, to make sure that I could actually get all the parts powered up and have enough headroom for it. And the last thing that happened was actually I decided that I thought the case would look really empty in the top, and I decided on actually buying a new radiator. And that is a 480 quad radiator from EK. Not too expensive, about 105, 110 bucks. It's a PE edition, so it's a 36 millimeter radiator. The other one that I have is the XE Extreme Edition, which is a 60 millimeter radiator. But I wanted to take into account that I needed to put like fans on it. And I didn't want to go push-pull because there was really no need for it. So I'm actually pushing air out. The only thing I wanted was I couldn't go with EK Varda fans. I'm reusing my Varda fans in the front, but you're not seeing them, and that's because they're blocked by the grill, and that's what I wanted. But the fans the fan that I'm using for the external is AF 120 millimeter Corsair, but I didn't want to use Varda fans because they're going to clash with that, and I didn't want to. And if I wanted to go with Varda fans, they wanted to be white. But instead, I went with the SP 120 fans, which look identical to the AF fan, and looks really great, I think. And I didn't want the LEDs, so I went with the standard one. These are DC. You can get, for a couple of bucks more, you can get the PWM, the power delivery, or the power one, where you have 4 pins on each of them. They are connected to, what's it called? A splitter in the back, all of them, a 5 splitter control, or not controller, but it's a fan splitter, and that is going into the motherboard. So all the things are pretty much controlled by the motherboard and temperature there. So the voltage is not there, but it's DC, so it's the DC volts it's gonna go for. The fans in the front, the Varda fans are 4 pins. That means they're power management. So it's a different delivery system. 3 pins with 4 pins. 4 pins is better, but the problem is that I didn't have a splitter for that, and I didn't want to pay the extra one because the AFs are DC. So I just thought, well, okay, we'll go with DC. So I bought 2 packs of these, 2 double packs, and hooked them up. Put them on, plugged it in, and yeah. Started looking at how I wanted to do the rest of the loop. So as you can see, I'm actually, the 2 loops, the 2 bends that are probably the worst of them, because I actually reused some tubing from the CPU up to the top radiator. And that is probably the one that I did pretty okay. That wasn't too bad. Then I took a new acrylic because I had to buy new PEGT tubing, and in one bend I actually did the long bend from the radiator to the other radiator, so to connect them. That was pretty easy. The worst one was from the pump to the CPU. That was probably the one that I spent the most time on and failed the most on. But I found out that just heating it up enough and just finagling around with it helped a lot. And I also found out that I need, when I do this here, more space, because I was actually bending in one room and running into the next room to actually see the fitting. and that's not good. You need to see that while you're actually bending it. So you can actually start bending while you're looking at it. I actually did measuring, but that did help me more. So I actually hit the measuring a lot better than actually did. Now, eyeballing it is not for me. I need measurements, or at least if I want to eyeball it, I need to stand next to it. So another thing learned. But yeah, after I got it, that was pretty much it, and it's a tight fit. You do see that the bends are not 100%, and it is a little bit, some of the things are a little bit squished in, or it's bending something else, so, but I'm happy with it. I'm actually really, really happy. Nobody has this build. All the things are done by myself. The sleevings is done. I'm super happy with this here. The 6850K inside is overclocked to 4.5 gigs. It's running pretty smoothly. It's running at idle around 30. The hottest it got by rendering videos was 55. It's so cool. It's not the quietest build, but it's actually, as you could probably not hear in the background, it's running right now doing idle, so I'm really happy. I'm really, really happy with it. It's probably the most expensive and most powerful build that I've done ever. And that's saying a lot. I've done a couple of builds and a couple of insane things. So the last thing I want to talk about is storage. So all of you probably know that the dude got an upgrade, and I actually put in NVMe drive, and that was a OZC Toshiba RD400 on a PCI Express port. The problem was that I thought that the Z87 boards were actually supported to boot up on the OS on it. Nope. It's only 90s and Z97 boards that are, some of them are supported by the BIOS. You can boot up on PCIe devices. So I couldn't use it as an OS, so I didn't really use it in the build. It was just idling there on the PCI or on a D drive. So I took that out, put that in, and then it was just like 500 gigs is actually not enough for a main storage drive these days, especially with all the large games that are out there. So what I did was I bought a 1 terabyte drive, which is around $700, adding a shit ton of more expense to this build here, and I got that in. That's actually what you're seeing, which is hooked up on the M.2 drive. That's the 1 terabyte drive. Just underneath the GPU, the GPU, you will see the slot for the 500 gig half terabyte drive. So there's 1.5 terabytes of drive, NVMe drives of the manufacturer OZC Toshiba in it, and they're running great. No problems whatsoever. Around read and write around write for 2.5 gigs a sec. So yeah, pretty fast. Booting up okay. I'm happy with it. So yeah, let's take a fast B-roll on it, and thank you for pretty much watching my ramble of this here video. Hit that like button if you liked this video. Hit that dislike button if you didn't. And also please hit that subscribe button so you can follow me and all the other videos that are coming up. And also hit me up on Twitter, Flickr, and Instagram to check out all the pictures that I have of this here build. And again, thank you many times for watching this video. And until next time, bye.